on keeping on with our updating task, okay? So I actually did a little bit of research in between the last video and the first one because I feel like this whole shebang is just very extra, okay? And I'm like, you know, type ORM probably has a better way to do this, and it turns out they do, okay? You can just use their query tools and query a little bit better. So I'm going to leave this for now on my other ones because they work, they're fine, okay? The use works out, but I'm going to go ahead and use an updated query moving forward for my updates, okay? In my make it better portion of the course, I will go ahead and refactor this, but this could be a good exercise if you did it the way I did it, to try to refactor that on your own. All right. So what we want to do is we want to update our task, okay, with the field value and task ID. I'm going to throw in as well that we want to use the user ID because we want to verify that the user number that is trying to update the task is the owner of the task, okay? So before I went through projects and then features and then user stories and then tests in order to get there, but TypeORM can do that for me, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to use my handy dandy where, okay? And I'm going to add to it, okay? So let me go back to auth service though and pass in. Oh, yep, I'm already passing it in. So let's pass it in here. All right, task service. Okay, so we have where the ID is gonna be task ID, okay? But we want more, okay? So I'm going to say my user, so task, right? The level right above task is user story. So if you look at my task entity, you see I have a field called user story, all right? So I can go ahead and query that field. So I'm gonna say user story, okay? And then I'm gonna keep going up the line because I wanna get all the way up to user, okay? So I'm going through my row of foreign keys. So the step above user story is feature, okay? The step above feature is project, and the step above project is user, okay? So I had to do all of this line in order to get to my user because what I want is I want my user ID to be equal to the user ID that I'm passing in, okay? So what I'm saying is I want you to find me a task to update where the ID is the task ID and the user ID is the user ID, okay? And this logic here, the way I wrote this, is essentially how we did all of this, okay? So now we want to say if task to update, okay, then we want to go ahead and update it. And let's throw the console log in there, okay? Otherwise, we want to throw our error, okay? And let's import. Perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look, okay? So I'm gonna go to feature 2, I'm gonna find a user story, task 1, and I'm gonna click to do, okay? So it changed it to in progress, which makes sense, okay? We have the ID of 17, okay? The name task 1, and the status is now in progress. You can see that it found it based on my user ID of 41. So now let's change this. Let's say that I am user 5. I'm gonna hard code it instead, okay? I'm gonna try to click this again, and you can see that I got an error, okay? But you can see it says that I'm logged out, and I'm not actually logged out. So I'm going to say user is not owner. I'm gonna say you cannot edit that task, right? And then I'm gonna change this to a bad request exception, okay? And let's try again. All right, I'm going to click this and perfect. There was an error updating your task. Please try again. Okay, now I hard coded this to 5, so that doesn't actually make sense. This wouldn't happen, but this would happen on if like I were to hit the endpoint myself. Okay, so I'm going to change this back to user ID. Okay, but this is a much shorter way to do what we did in the auth service. All right, so we went ahead and we updated our task. Okay, and now we need to figure out what we want to do in terms of here. I'm going to think that we want to return our project like the way we return everything else, okay? So I'm going to say return await, because I'm going to follow this, okay? Then I'm going to go back to here, okay? So if you can see, it's awaiting the creation of the task, but then it's going to return by project ID, okay? But you can see here that we don't have the project ID, okay? So I could do it in a few different ways, okay? I could go ahead and say like this, and then I could go and look up my project ID, right? So let's do return task to update dot user story dot feature dot project dot ID. All right, so that is going to give me the project ID that I'm working on. So let's go back here, right? That is going to be returned here. So I should be able to say const project ID is equal to, and then I should be able to console.log project ID. All right, let's see if that worked correctly. Okay, so I'm going to refresh my page. All right, first let me go find my project ID, shall we? Okay, so project A is what it is called. So let's find, it's taking a very long time to load. This is not optimal, pgadmin. Okay, so the project ID is 10. So that is what we are hoping to see console logged. All right, so let's go here. We're gonna make, bam. Cannot read properties of undefined feature. Well, okay, so I think what we want to do is we want to add our relations in there so we can get everything back. Nope, and we're not going to add that to the where. We're going to say relations here. And we're going to say user story dot feature dot how do we do this? An array. User story dot feature dot project. Do I not do it? All right, well, let's back up and look it up. So we're to say relations of relations. And then I'm also going to go look at my projects because we in the service have a good example of that. Okay, so I think we're just trying to do it all in. User story. Here, it expects. Why does it expect a colon? What am I doing wrong here? let's add our array. And then let's do so weird. Okay, let's go ahead and look. It's funny because I just had this too when I was Googling it. Such is life. Okay. Find one where that makes sense. Relations. Oh, it's just an array. It's not. It's always something silly. Okay. So I am going to then do feature project. All right, let's see now. All right, click. Still mad at me. That's okay. Property feature. So then do we need to do user story? This is the best way though to get this information, to figure this out, is to just try over and over and kind of play around with it. Perfect. Boop, boop. All right, so this is the way that you do features with type ORM. Okay. So, and that's exactly how I would debug too, right? I would just kind of find an example on Stack Overflow or on the type ORM documentation and then kind of just edit from there, right? All right, so we get our project ID back of 10, which is what we wanted. And then we are going to go and we are going to say return await this dot project service dot get project by ID. And then we are going to pass in project ID. All right. I believe we're console logging on the front end, so I'm going to refresh this. Let's go ahead and inspect. And clear, press. And my response is I get my project back. Let's go and try to find this feature. So this is feature 2, and then this is user story A, and then task 1, and perfect, it is done. Okay, so we are doing pretty good. So we need to go ahead and now return to the front end, okay? And we need to look into our task box. All right, the only thing we're passing in is task, and we want to get set project passed in. Now, eventually I would want to refactor because you can tell how I'm prop drilling like crazy in all of these things. So we want to use context at some point to save my current project, and then I could just update it there. But for now, it's going to take me longer to refactor than to just do it. So I'm going to just do it, and then I will have a better idea of like what exactly I want my context to look like. Okay, so task box is here, and that is from, go ahead and get rid of all my back end things. That's from the user story details, okay? So we see that we have set project there. So this actually isn't going to be too much of a lift. We should be able to say set project is equal to set project. I always write product instead of project, okay? And then I should be able to just copy this and throw it into my props here. I'm going to want to import my type and then add it to props. That should take care of the error. And then I should be able to say set project is equal to response.data. Okay, so let's give this a try. So I click and it goes to, okay, let's start with getting it cleared. Okay, so it starts as to do, I click, it's in progress. Okay, that makes sense. This shouldn't change for in progress, but I click and it changes. Whoop, 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 whoop. All right, I love when that happens. Okay, so that makes sense then. Let's switch this to done too. and it moves over to done. Okay, I will say that when basically, like, if the box is gonna move columns, it automatically closes my modal, and I don't know how I feel about that quite yet. But I feel like it's not necessarily a bug. It just is gonna be something that I'm going to watch for future videos. And I can, maybe I'll add that as an investigative ticket here to investigate. Modal closes when a feature changes column. Okay, so now let's go ahead and mark what we've done. We created the task status select with to do, in progress, and done. We created the onChange function for the task status. Yeah. And we created an update task function that updates the task in the task table based on the field and value. Yep. And then we added a successful toast. All right. So we will end this video here. And when we pick up, we'll go ahead and move on to editing the task name. So we're going to be able to edit this here. All right. See you in the next one.